believe I did that.
Title change?
Yeah, the title changed on me. Shit. Sorry.
It's okay.
Oh, man. Oh, crap. It's my flu. Yeah, I know, but I'm just all frazzled now.
Oh, we get that. We've all been there.
Okay. Yeah. Well, hello, everyone. And my name is Brent. I'm the host for Canadians with Disabilities and their Allies. I'm actually really excited to have Jeff Leggat join me today from the Disability Action of Canada. Well, hello, Jeff.
Hi. Hey, Brent. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. How are you doing, Jeff?
Good. Thank you. It's good to see you guys.
Good to see you too, Jeff. So, Jeff, a lot of advocacy going on with you. Your tireless advocacy is really making headways across Canada due to imposed poverty of disabled Canadians. So with all being said, let's just dive right into this and tell me what's happening on ground level.
Okay, let's talk about BC first of all. BC just recently, during the budget day, announced an increase. I love how they use increase, and they love the percentage 33% increase base of the shelter portion of the disability income support. Now, 33% sounds so wonderful and so generous, but when you look at the fact that the shelter allowance in BC is $375, a number from last century almost. A 33% increase is pathetic. It's actually disgusting. It's $125 a month more for persons with disabilities who have the luxury, and I'm going to use the word luxury, of having a place to rent. Those people, those of us who are disabled and are not able to have a place to rent, aren't able to afford a place to call our shelter, do not have access to that $375. And as of July 1st will be $500 a month.
Wow.
So the most vulnerable of us, we're vulnerable, disabled, but the most vulnerable of us get screwed. They get nothing. It's actually despicable. It's the least increase the government could have figured out. It's the absolute least. So it's sad because they announced a $500 million investment in cancer. And I'm not going to take away from cancer research. I'm not going to take away from the importance of fighting this horrible disease. But cancer research in Canada is big business. It's in the hundreds of billions of dollars. The government has no place jumping into to support a charitable organization, which is big business. So that $500 million, I don't know why they came up with that or where it's going to, but they could have easily eradicated the imposed poverty of disabled in BC by moving that over to the disabled people. Now, they had some weird numbers, Brent. I have a number of 107,000 approximately are receiving disability income. That's based on some records back in 2018. They have a number of 224,000 they announced today are receiving income and disability. So once again, are they putting us with welfare?
That's
are
what
they
I'm
putting
thinking.
us in
They are.
the same boat?
They always
with
have.
welfare?
They put it under one roof, right? And at one time there used to be two separate offices, and a lot of people don't know that. There used to be one for persons with disabilities, one for welfare or income assistance recipients in two separate offices, and now they treat them like criminals. You have to report, or have you been incarcerated? You know, every month. Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, I mean,
so I that's what. Sorry, Neil.
I was gonna say, like, well, one of the things I was gonna say, and we talked about it during your Zoom rally that you had, this whole thing that the minister said. She repeated the word stigma like 5 or 6 times in her speech, right? Stigma with regard to the drug supply and decriminalizing the drug supply and removing the stigma is so important, right? And yet you never hear them talk about stigma and disability. And one of the things that I sometimes say, and some people get, I don't know, maybe they'll get offended by this term, but I always sometimes say, like, disability is not sexy enough, right? And some people say, well, why do you use the word sexy? But it's true. I mean, that's why it doesn't get, I don't think we get enough airplay, because disability just isn't sexy. I mean, you know, there's so many things that are more sexy to politicians than disability, right? And I think that's a big reason why.
Well, you know, there's so many people that are to believe that the disabled in Canada. I mean, we'll talk about British Columbia in a moment, but in Canada, thinking that their shelter is actually on top of their support portion, which is a myth, and it's false. It's all inclusive. And so our rates in British Columbia, just for an example, $375 was last time it was changed was April 1st, 2007. Previous administration had every opportunity to change it. The current administration has every opportunity to change it. So now that rate takes effect. The 375 bump up with 125 up to $500 takes effect as of July. So technically, it's still frozen until July. Yeah. So now it's 15 years and 11 months right now as it stands. It's just the least rent that price.
It's the least increase the BC government could have done by trying to appease the call for an increase for disability rates brought on by Sonia Furstenau in the question period, brought on by the disability advocates. We are all screaming, yelling for an increase to disability income support rates. They did the least amount possible. So it's $125 million is the investment of raising this amount. Sorry, $174 million. $174 million. It's $125 a month per disabled person who has a home. So now, if you're on disability and you get a bus pass, you get $1,358 plus $125 starting July. So that puts us at 71% of poverty level. The poverty level in Canada, based on 2021's number, and I'm gonna fight for this till I'm blue in the face. Based on the LICO table. The LICO table is what the government uses for refugee sponsorship. And if they make Canadians raise $26,400, they base that as the bottom level, the poverty level for incoming refugees. That's the poverty level we're going to be using. And that's the one I always advocate for. So if we were to have a poverty level, we would have to be getting $2,160 or $2,200, somewhere around there, based on 2 years ago a figure. Now, we also have 74% of people in disabled people in BC do not have access to subsidized housing. So not only are we being left out on basic financial support, we're also being left out on subsidized housing. If you don't want to increase the financial support for disabled people, then you better put 100% of us into subsidized housing until you do want to increase the financial support. The thing is, we're being heard, and people are following us on media. Sonia Furstenau is our biggest champion inside the House of Commons in BC, and Adam Olson with the Green Party. I haven't talked to the Liberal Party for a little while, Brent. I'm still trying to reach out to Dan Davies. I got to find out if there's a new person in that position. We will be holding a rally at the end of the month. I'll talk to you about that, Brent. We're not going to Ottawa because they postponed the MAID eligibility for another year, so I don't have to go to Ottawa right now. So that's been put off. So we're going to really focus on BC and getting us up again. $125 is not enough, and so we're going to challenge that over the next couple of months. And when I say challenge it, I mean going to the legislature, having a rally, going to his office, MLA office, and having a rally, but not having it broadcast so it gets hijacked. I'm going to events. I've already booked in 2 events, one with Sheila Malcolmson and one with David Eby. So I'm going to be hijacking a couple events, not hijacking, but participating in, to really bend the ear. So there's a few things that we can keep doing, but the bottom line is we have to keep advocating online and challenging and using keywords like despicable, disgusting, not enough, using keywords, government imposed poverty.
Yeah.
I actually loved the video that you released on Twitter, and you said if you did a 50% increase in the rates, and then did another 50% increase in the rates, that would bring us to the bottom, and you're like, the bottom, and it's like, yeah, it's true, and but not enough people can understand that even doubling it twice is just getting you up to, just poverty level,
Well, with the market rents, you're looking. In Victoria, where I am, you're looking at $2,200 a month for a 1-bedroom. $2,600 for a 2-bedroom. If you get a rundown old place, you might luck out and get one for $1,700. But even then, that's more than the full check.
That's not even in metropolitan places. That's in Kelowna. That's in Nelson, BC. That's in Castlegar. That's in Duncan. That's in these little towns in the middle of nowhere, BC. You're paying $1,600 for a 1-bedroom. You're paying $2,000 for a 1-bedroom, $2,500 for a 2-bedroom, because there's that greed right now. People can make it. They make the money. They're going to make the money.
Yeah,
so
you can flip the units, right? Just keep on flipping them. If somebody moves out, they can jack up $500-600 or as high as they want. Sky's the limit. My manager even admitted, sky's the limit. I said, what do you mean sky's the limit? There's no cap. So whatever the market says they can get, they will get. And if they really want a person out, they will find a way to get them out so they can keep that return to their investors. And that's basically how it is. It's a game for them. And unfortunately, they're playing on the most vulnerable or the disabled, seniors, and it's despicable. It's got to stop. And there was a recent article, Jeff, I was going to mention to you. It was just in the CBC, their take on what came out of the budget. There was 2 individuals that had mentioned, I guess they must live in subsidized housing, and they say that the $125 increase as of July 1st of 2023, they won't benefit from it. They said that they won't benefit because they're in subsidized housing. I wanted your
thing, yes.
Yeah, and they're really
mad.
Not
only do you exclude the ones that don't have homes, you also exclude the ones that are in subsidized housing. That's why I'm saying this is the absolute least the government could have done.
Yeah. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and again, it's a 2-tiered. They're playing disabled against disabled.
And
they
it's not fear mongering, because we saw this happen in September in Ontario. So either because it's municipality based, it's not provincial wide, we don't have a universal system, despite that we talk about universal health care in Canada. And some places, had increases, some places didn't in subsidized housing. And some of them had them in January, some of them might have them sometime in the future, but it wasn't done. So in Ontario, if it wasn't done universally.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like when I say they, and I want to clarify when I say they playing disabled people, I don't want other disabled people thinking that I'm saying, well, disabled are playing disabled people against each other. No, it's the government saying, well, if you want subsidized housing, you can have cheaper rent. But you want market housing, well, go. I mean, hey, that's your tough luck for you, right? I mean, but we're only going to give you 125 for market rent. But the ones in subsidized housing, I'm sorry, you don't get that. We're going to gear your rent to income. Like there's a major divide, and they should have, meaning the government, should have every opportunity, rather than all these CEOs, all these big positions that got filled. And I was listening to a talk show just recently, and there was one administration person was making almost $600,000 as a severance payout, and then got rehired into another position. Like there's a problem. All these ones that are making all these top dollar severance, and all that money could go into better strengthening our social safety net for the people with disabilities, the most vulnerable, they call them, or seniors. I mean, they got nothing. Seniors I don't think they got anything in the budget either, or if they did, it was very minimal.
One of the things that I don't think gets enough airplay either is this idea that when you think about it, people with disabilities and the elderly too, I mean, we're one of the biggest drivers of the economy, really. Yes. I'm just taking my own life as an example, and the life of my previous wife. She had a disability, and she was in a wheelchair. She had arthrogryposis her whole life, and she had to depend on 24/7 care aids. So, and she was a school teacher though too. So, because she had full-time care aids, they were able to support her so that she could be, she could be able to teach at a school and earn a living. But my point is, so she was earning a living and paying taxes, but she was also paying the wages of, I think it was 5 full-time employees of care aids. They were making a living off of being care aids for her. And this is just one person, like my previous wife, and then you've got things like wheelchairs and scooters are huge big ticket items, and of course they're gouging people all the time. but think about that, and I mean, maybe I'm not getting off topic, but we used to have a customized van too, and those, the wheelchair vans, they're huge money, right? That's like $80,000 too for a van, like a brand new one. And so all these big ticket items, and like I said, health care providers and care aids that help support the elderly and the disabled, they're all driving the economy. So in a sense, we're driving the economy. So if the government would realize, give us the money, they get the money back, because we'll pump it into the economy again. Like we've said before, we're not gonna squirrel it away in some sort of hedge fund or stock market or something. We're going to use it and reinvest it in the economy again.
Yeah.
And so totally. it becomes the government's money anyway.
We're market people with disabilities are market leaders in accessing the tools that they need to access, right? And
well, yeah. Bertie, you cut out there.
Oh, sorry, because I got nothing, like me and my sentences
Oh.
there. But it's really that we are market leaders. We're market drivers of the economy. Like, sure, there are some products that can only be purchased in the States and have to be shipped here. But when possible, we want to be paying less in shipping, and we will be sourcing locally. We will be sourcing Canadian, and the caregivers. I mean, just looking at the Ontario example, you're also accessing OHIP, and you're continuing to drive the need for those systems to evolve, right? But when we're not able to access society, and laying low, as David Onley so often said, well, then of course, then the healthcare economy isn't being stimulated, right?
Yeah. One of the talking points that I like to always put out is if you invest $600 to $800 million in raising the rates for people with disabilities in BC, by raising the rates up, that's $600 to $800 million a year that you're giving to people with disabilities gets put throughout society, gets put into society in every region of this province. It gets given to grocers, it gets given to hairstylists, it gets given to landlords, it gets given to transportation. So that is a stimulant right there into a stimulus of the economy everywhere in this province. If you're giving $500 million to cancer research, that $500 million goes to a corporation. You give $600 million of taxpayer money, it goes right back into society. Yeah. So that's one of the points.
Exactly.
Let me explain.
Yes. Go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
Let me explain the focus that I have. We have to always be constantly asking for poverty level financial support. There is no negotiation. We're not going to negotiate anymore. It's $2,200 or nothing. You have to buck up. Then that's what we're fighting for. Not only in BC, but everywhere in Canada. I don't care what the cost of living is in Saskatchewan, where it could be less than $2,200. The official poverty level of Canada is $2,200. That's what disabled Canadians in every single province deserve. And that way it gives them the ability to move anywhere in this province, anywhere in this country, and live. If they choose to live in Halifax or Nova Scotia or PEI or Saskatchewan, where the money goes a little bit further, your dollar stretches a little bit more, good for them. That helps the economy in those areas. If they choose to live in a metropolitan area like Montreal, Vancouver, Toronto, then that's up to them. They just have to pay what they have to pay. But there's no more of this penny pinching and saying, well, you live in Russell, Manitoba, so your cost of living isn't as high. It's negligible, and it's oppressive. So if I want to move to a different province, my disability, it stays the same. So that's what we're going for. So if people are asking me why am I always seeking poverty level financial support, that's why. One level anywhere in Canada. Exactly. Once that is achieved, then we discuss other problems. Then we discuss partnership clawbacks, partnership dependencies. I'm a Canadian. I'm a disabled Canadian. You're a disabled Canadian. We're all disabled Canadians. We are individuals. I don't care if I'm married to Joe Blow, who makes $80,000 a year. That's his income. That's not my income. I'm married to Joanne, who makes $70,000 a year. That's her income. That's not my income. I have my own disability support for my own needs. There should be no clawbacks for that. Well, the thing that really, and then we also talk about moving. If I want to leave the province of BC, I can't leave BC for more than a month or else I lose my disability. Are you kidding me? I'm Canadian.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't leave Canada for a month. Okay, I understand that, but I'm Canadian. So if I'm leaving BC for 2 months to go to Ontario for whatever reason, it has nothing to do with my disability.
And that's part of the stigma again. Like, we have all these rules and hoops that we have to jump through, and that's part of the stigma of disability. And it's it should be autonomy, right? We should be emphasizing autonomy and not stigma.
Yeah, it's like
exactly.
Remember in school, oh, can I go to the washroom, please? Yeah. Well, no, you know what, Brent, just go. You don't have to ask. Same thing.
It's all based on control and oppression, control and oppression, control and oppression. And it's also based on disrespect.
Yeah, because your disability does not go away just because you're in one province. You can go in any province. It's the same way, is that you shouldn't have to apply under another province to say, are you still disabled? It doesn't go away. You're born with it. You can get a disability anytime in your life.
It's an entire mindset. It's kind of based on the fact of people on welfare. They don't give them too much money. They're just going to spend it on alcohol. If you're out of a job, you're a human being. You deserve $2,200 a month to provide yourself with shelter and food and whatever else. If you choose to spend that any way you want to choose to spend that, it doesn't matter. It doesn't negate the fact that you deserve poverty level financial support every month. That's it. So this whole stigma, this whole discrimination, this whole judgment of people in this country that shouldn't be given money because they're just going to waste it or spend it. That's such a self-serving and judgmental and discriminatory mindset. I hate it, and it has to be a thing of the past.
I was just going to jump in and say the reason why the government can get away with what they're doing with clawbacks and stuff is because the way social assistance is set up, it's set up as income of last resort. That's their get out of jail free card, where they can kind of basically do anything with impunity and say, well, we can abuse and misuse any way we want because it's income of last resort. So we can claw back Neil's survivor's pension as unearned income because it's income of last resort. So they just have all these like I call them pink unicorns, where they just make all these exceptions to the rule and say, well, now this earned income that was an earned income privilege is now a pink unicorn because it's income of last resort, and it's just, I think it's just perverse, really, really perverse government policy that they can get away with that kind of stuff.
There's so many people in Canada that are having to sacrifice because the rates are so suppressed down way below poverty level. And when they say poverty level, I mean a baseline, like we were talking about, and they shouldn't have to sacrifice. You got hydro, you got a tenant insurance, and that's a lot of places now are charging tenant insurance, and that's another burden on the disabled, paying their bills. Just putting basic food on the table. I remember one night we just had popcorn for dinner. Right? Yeah. Wow. It's filling, it's healthy, but we have to kind of cut and look and say, hey, are we that hungry? No, I had a big lunch. Okay, not that hungry for dinner. Okay, have popcorn. I shouldn't have to do that.
I really look at the government's talking points and their justification for not providing poverty level financial support. They have the whole society believing that we have limited resources. A country of 40 or 50 years ago, we had limited resources because we weren't a global, we weren't a rich, we weren't a multinational. Money was not flowing like it did. Like it does now. We have so much money in this country. We can eradicate poverty of all 5.2 million people that are below poverty level out of our 38 million population. We can eradicate it, and that was actually commented on and confirmed by Chrystia Freeland about 3 years ago. We have the resources to do it. It's just a matter of changing the mindset to do it. The government, NDP government, used a talking point yesterday or the day before saying that their government, the NDP, is the first government to raise disability rates over the past few years 3 or 4 times. They use that talking point. But it's lovely
and it costs the system poverty has a cost, right? It has a healthcare cost.
Yes, it does.
Not providing people with the ability to get themselves a healthy diet has a long-term cost. By the time somebody is 50 and they've been in government suppressed poverty for so long, they have increased, by that point you're compounding existing disabilities and adding new ones.
Yep, exactly. It puts a strain on our healthcare system. But you give people a adequate amount to live on, they can make better choices for themselves. They can, God forbid, right? Go and put money back into the economy. Go and support your local business, local store, rather than a big corporation. It's terrible.
It's even to the point where we don't have to defend the reasons we need poverty level. We don't have to defend that. We are a human being in Canada. We're unable to support ourselves, medically assessed and designated as disabled for whatever reason. We deserve poverty level financial support as a first world country which can afford to sustain a healthy society. We don't need to justify it, because having to justify it confirms disrespect to us. It devalues us as human beings. I don't want to have to confirm anything. I deserve poverty level financial support because we can afford it, because it's the moral thing to do, because this country has to have healthy societies. And I give back, you give back, you give back, we all give back to society in our own ways. So don't make me have to explain why I deserve poverty level, the bottom of the barrel financial support.
I remember, Jeff, I remember back in 2000 when, when COVID was just full blown, right? And all those announcements, Mr. Trudeau would come on, hey, it's the Trudeau show. Everybody say it's the Trudeau show. He'd come on with announcements, and I'd be like waiting, well, seniors, families, the children. I thought, I wonder when they're going to mention people with disabilities. Nope. Next day, nothing. Next day, and he kind of quietly, kind of baby steps toward that. Then all of a sudden, we're going to make the announcement about the CDB. But he said that he felt that we needed to give people CERB at $2,000. Well, the only reason why he said $2,000 is what the federal NDP had pushed. Jagmeet had pushed him to make $2,000. They were only going to do $1,000 per person, which is, but that was the most minimum amount he said that people needed to get by. And why are the disabled rates still so low, where he said that was the base amount?
Yeah,
that was the LICO amount again.
I really have to push this to all the disability advocates across the country. We need to come together and really demand financial support first and foremost, and only at this point. We have to reform this disability income support program all across the country, and there are many faults, and there's many areas which are horrible, which have to be adjusted. But the first and foremost, we have to make sure that every single disabled Canadian is given poverty level financial support. And we're not going to accept $19,000 as poverty level, because the Allies have lowered that amount. Seem like they're on bullshit. We're going to use the LICO table, and that's it. So if we deal with all the other crap later. Once it gets put into place, we can deal with all the other crap later. BC is short-sighted in saying that, well, they don't want to give so much more hundreds of millions of dollars. Claw back CPPD. If you don't claw back CPPD, then don't worry about it. If you get $1,300 from disability, PWD disability in BC, and you get $600 from CPPD, then your disability only has to go up a couple hundred more dollars. That's it. You don't claw that back. You add that on, and the total is $2,200. It's not rocket science, people.
Those clauses are just terrible. Like it hurts so many people in today's society, and it doesn't need to happen. People are eligible for that CPPD. They pay into it, and they speak it back, right? And then, but the provincial government says, like Neil had mentioned, it's unearned income. Well, no, it's earned income. Then what is the point about it? They can justify.
If the federal government's going to support you, if the federal government's going to give you this much support a month, $600, $700, $300, then the provincial government has to just make up the rest. That's it. Don't claw back, just make up the rest to the total equals poverty level. And when CDD comes into effect, Canadian Disability, or CDB, whatever, Canadian Disability Benefit comes into effect, if they want to add $300 or $400 or whatever on top of the disability, then that's even better for each province. But we have to get the province to understand that it's their responsibility to make sure that their citizens, their provincial citizens, receive no less than $2,200 a month per LICO table. And I'm saying that as the singular figure that will be indexed over time. So it'll be indexed once 2200 comes out, or 2022 comes out. But that's the provincial government's responsibility, to make sure that the disabled people have poverty level financial support from whatever combination of means they have access to.
Yeah, they have.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, they have a legal
and stopping the provincial governments from profiteering off of the federal supports that do come to those who do have the federal supports, right? Because that's been a big part of it, even during the pandemic. You know, any extras, you know, provinces would say, oh, well, okay, now we get to pick and choose. Are we going to claw that back from people with disabilities?
Yeah, because I've always been really sarcastic. Like, this is a very sarcastic thing, I realize, but I've, you know, when I write emails to the provincial government here in BC, you know, I say, like, the way the clawbacks are set out, it's like, you know, the way they claw back my survivor's pension, and I know this isn't really the case, but this is how it really looks in my eyes. Is like they're like, well, congratulations on the death of your wife, you know, congratulations on the death of your spouse. Now we don't have to pay you as much disability. We'll just claw back your disability check now. Congratulations, well done. You know, and that's just perverse. I mean, I know that's not the intent. I know that's not the intent, but that's what it comes across as. It's like, congratulations, thanks for working your 20 years or 25 years and earning that earning and privilege, and we can just discriminate and claw that back like it didn't matter, you know. And it's just like, you know, and I know that's not the intent, like, you know, but I want to make that point when I write emails. It's like, that's what it comes across as. It's like, congratulations, well done on the death of your spouse. Now we get to take all this money, we'll get to minus all this money away from you.
Well, here's another thing, though, where the provincial government in BC, they always had an excuse of not wanting to raise the shelter portion, because they say that the finance ministers used to say this all the time, like, you know, have rallies, or they call it town hall meetings, right? So I'd go to them and go, well, why won't you raise it? Well, because the landlords will take advantage of it. If we raise it, they're going to raise your rent. And I used to have this with the former minister. I'd sit down and talk to him, right? He says, yeah, you know, I mean, we want to, but the landlords will take advantage. Well, I live in this building in a corporate setting. I live and I pay to a REIT. And so I talked to my manager just recently. I said, do you believe that? I said, you are one of the investors. She goes, yes, right. So with the government saying, oh, well, if we raise that, you will take advantage of it. Oh, come on. She says, no, we can only raise your rent, Brent, by whatever the annual amount is per year. So this year, the government has said that the landlords are only allowed to charge 2%. They wanted to charge up to inflation, but the government said no. So the only way that we're going to make money is that if you move, a new tenant moves into your unit, now we're going to make that money. So are we taking advantage of you? I don't know. Yeah. So it's a myth. She said it's a myth. And maybe they're gearing it to maybe the SROs. She says, I have no clue, but that's just
the entire setup or arrangement of disability support, dividing it into the two different shelter versus all of the costs is ridiculous. It's a self-serving thing, and it doesn't make sense. It's oppressive. It's discriminatory. It should be one fee. That should be one fee only. That fee should be poverty level. And how you are able to, you should be able to get into a subsidized housing and pay a lower amount for your rent than the other people. If you're not able to, you still can afford to live.
Well, something that's very often used by subsidized housing is that they don't have to move as fast to do a repair because the market rent people, they get the first tier care, right? Even though I'm in, I'm in a market rent building, but my rent is subsidized. So despite that everybody else gets maintenance, my unit doesn't get maintenance. And what's the effect in the entire building? Well, I can tell you what the effect is on the entire building when one unit is not cared for.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's similar to what happens in the healthcare system too.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we go through too. I mean, we got water in our sink. It's not a lot of water, but it's been there since we moved in. Well, can you fix it? No, they don't make those parts anymore. It costs too much money. It's warped. But hey, that's it. Hey, but you get to pay cheaper rent. That's what manager says. You get to pay cheaper rent. I go, cheaper?
Are you in subsidized?
No.
You're not in subsidized.
No, market rent.
So that's weird. They should have to keep your unit up to par.
They say that they'll get fixed once we move out. Well, they said that to another tenant who has a friend who lived in the building, and they told that tenant. So I knew for a fact. So the person came to visit, and they visit their buddy, and the same unit is the same way when they left, and they said it'll get fixed once you move out. No, they just painted it over. They painted over, and that's it.
Shady.
And it's fully renovated, right? Let's just change the key lock and maybe put a new faucet on and done.
One of the things I wanted to go back to is we talked about the importance of health, like that poverty has a cost, and keeping people with disabilities healthy is important. I wanted to, and I've shared this story before a couple of times, but that I used to work for the Sam Sullivan Disability Foundation. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, Jeff. Sam Sullivan.
I know Sam Sullivan. I didn't know he had
he has a foundation. He's had it for it's decades now. But I worked for them for like 6 years, and what we did is we had a job placement program, and so I was kind of hired on as a mentor and basically what would happen is I would just meet clients for coffee and have kind of coffee dates with people, and we would kind of goal set and set kind of employment goals and try to find good employment opportunities for them, and just kind of talk things out. And and there was a lot of good success with the program, right? But there was also a lot of things that didn't work well, and one of the glaring things that really didn't work well, and I was very sure to share that in my reports because I knew it was all going to get handed down to the provincial government on some level. But one of the glaring things that came out of it was, there's a lot of people that wanted to work, but it was all those other things that were getting in the way, and it was like the secondary health. It wasn't just the disability. It was the fact that they had. It was the fact that they were living in less than great conditions. Like one guy had bed bugs, and another guy had smelly carpets, and another guy, somebody else had like death threats from a guy, and he had to move once, and so the BC Housing said, well, we're going to move you this one time, but if you refuse this housing a second time, you're out of BC Housing. And so then he got stuck with the smelly carpets, and because of the smelly carpets, he couldn't sleep. He had insomnia, right? Well, he got this job, or he tried to get this job, but do you think he could perform at a job when he was getting insomnia because of the smelly carpets? So again, that's a secondary issue. It has nothing to do with the disability, but it's because of the crappy conditions that are in play when you're dealing with poverty level stuff. You know, it impacts so many different things. It's not just get a job, and it's not just it's only your disability that's the issue. It's the secondary things.
Well, here's another add-on to that. That part too is how the government has suppressed to keep people in the housing that they're in, right? And like for me personally, like I'd love to move, somewhere else, right? Now the government, when I lived in another community before I moved to Victoria, high market rent, but we had the $300 supplement, and then they took that away. And I said to the manager at the time, she goes, well, what happens if they take it away? She goes, you told me that they're going to keep it in place. I go, well, that's what I was told. She goes, you showed me, Brent. You showed me from the government office. They said going forward, this is the amount that you need to be giving landlords. And it was at 15.15. It was 15.15. I remember that. And this was coming from the minister's office. And from each office, and people that are not familiar with that, each city has its own ministry office, persons with disabilities and welfare, it is, some people will call it, right, or income assistance, all barreled into one. So anyway, getting a short story, but quick on that. Help for me, yeah, sure, Brent. But with that though, is that was the amount I was told to have. So I had the form, and so I gave it to my manager, and she goes, and she brought it back out. She goes, "This is your file here. So here's the form, Brent. I remember when you said, yeah, you rent here, no problem. You always pay your rent. You're awesome tenant, okay?" I go, "Thank you." Right, but this is the amount you told me. You said for sure this is the amount. I can live on that. I can get by. It'll be tight, but I can do it. I go, right. Now you're telling me they're gonna take it away. Why would they take it away? You don't give. She said, you don't give and then take it away. I go, so and then I kind of jumped her basically with that conversation. I said, as of December 31st, 2020, they're going to be clawing it back to 175. She goes, what? I said, and then they're going to take it away, apparently end of April. So you got 3 more months. She goes, okay, so what are you going to do? I go, I have to make a big decision. I'm going to have to maybe move. Well, I applied at that time. I gave my notice in. She advised me not to do that. I gave my notice in because I knew I couldn't live there. Well, silly me. Now I look back and I say that's, water under the bridge. You don't give your notice in, Jeff, until you find another place. Well, I was desperate because I figured, well, there's no way that I'm going to make it by. The government put that fear in front of me of saying, I'm going to take this away. Now you're not going to be able to afford your rent. So I applied at a couple of local places. Sonia and I applied at a place in Nanaimo. I mean, and they said, no problem. We'll rent to people with disabilities. Well, here's the catch, everyone. These places said, hey, you got to be making $4,500 a month, and then we'll rent to you. Like, say what? I go, I was paid my rent on time. No, they want to make sure you live comfortably. No problem. And so I thought, okay, then maybe it's one of those one-off situations. I applied at a Langley Apartments. Local, right there, walking distance, no problem. Same thing. No. And they said, unless your government's going to give you a rate increase up to $2,000 per each person, we'll do it as low as $4,000. There's no way. I said, a friend of mine works in the healthcare system. He doesn't even make $4,000 take home. Yeah. So, well, I'm sorry. So the moral of the story is the decision making of government to give and then take away. So we luckily found a place in Victoria, $410 less per month than what we were paying. So we were paying $1,775. We found a place in Victoria for $1,365 at the time. Our rent went up to $1,385 this year. And now we got a rent increase again for this year, which it takes effect as of June. Is now going to go up to $1,412.70. So, I looked at it and I said, okay, moving company. The government will not pay for a moving company unless your rent is substantially less. Where are you going to find a place substantially less than that price anywhere in BC? Nowhere.
Exactly.
So they trap you in. But meanwhile, the government says, hey, we want you to be able to live in a community that you want to be in. It's talking points.
Yeah, exactly.
There's always more to do.
Neil, to go back on your point, that's the thing about poverty, is the fact that not only are you disabled and have the discrimination of an employer not wanting to hire you because you could need more, you could require more attention or require more things to work in their job. But if you're disabled and living under the poverty level, you don't have access to the best hygiene, you don't have access to the best clothes, you don't have access to the latest haircut, you don't have access to things in society which are a reflection of your worth as a human being. So to be disrespected to the point where you're giving less than poverty level means that you can't present yourself in society on a level playing field with everybody else. So I got to wrap up pretty soon. I have another meeting going on, but I really want to point out the government talking point in BC is the fact that this government has raised the rates for disabled people 3 times in the last 4 years. Let's counter that by saying, well, you know what? You raised it, you lowered it, you raised it again to the same what it was. So you only raised it once.
Yeah, because
you raised the 300 during COVID, you took back 125, you gave us another 125. So don't tell me you raised it 3 times.
It's a shell game. It's all a shell. It's a shell game.
Yeah, exactly. It's
2,
it's that 125 came from back in 2020. There was a report that came out January 28th of 2021, and it came out.
So let's make sure that they know we're not going to accept that talking point. Number 2, that 125 is not given back to every single person. They're giving less number of people at 125, so they're actually they haven't even raised it the way they said it has. Number 3, I want everybody in BC to talk to their MLA, Sheila Malcolmson, Katrine Conroy, and David Eby, every single chance you get, and say poverty level financial support is the least amount of financial support deserved for any disabled person in BC. Poverty level, we'll not accept anything less. We're done. You have billions in surpluses in this province. There's no excuse for government imposed poverty. That's it. If you have a chance to go to an NDP, meet up with any of these MLAs, David, Katrine, or Sheila, then do it and get in their ear. Phone their office, send them emails every week, do whatever we need to do, but we're not going to let up. We're not going to be satisfied with $120 for 75% of the PWDs in BC. That's not acceptable. So we're being heard, but we just have to they're thinking that they're going to just appease us, and that's not going to happen. They might have appeased us in the past, but that's why we've been in decades of legislated poverty. We're not going to appease us anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for coming on today. And this is a ongoing, tireless, and I say the word tireless because it doesn't end. Disability action advocacy does not end. We don't take a break. We keep on going forward, and we're speaking up for our fundamental rights are as a collective citizen in Canada. We should be able to have the money to go and put back into the communities and prosper. And so
we have the money. Canada, we have the money. BC, we have the money. Don't let anybody tell you that we don't have the money.
If they can give money to big oil and they can give money to big corporations as a tax giveaway, we have the money.
Show me the money.
It's this income into distribution, right? So if you want to do business
based on dignity and respect, we have to give our fellow man dignity and respect. And if you're unable to work, I'm not going to make you sleep in the mud. I'm going to give you what you need to survive and be a part of this community, to participate in life.
Totally. Nicely said, Jeff. And thank you so much again. And we'll definitely do this again soon.
And I apologize for the mix-up at the beginning, people. But again, my head was in the clouds a little bit because I've got the flu. So I apologize for that, Jeff. I can't be perfect every time.
a quick thank you to Dan and Canuck Peso and Jennifer for also tuning in and understanding that Neil is not quite up to speed today.
Perfect. Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
Jeff.
Yeah, and Jeff, just to everybody that's tuning in, contact, if you're in BC, contact your local MLA. If you're in other provinces, contact your local MLA and demand like a amount that you need to survive, and no less than $2,200, LICO 2021 formula. And I tell you, we haven't come up to 2022. I'm kind of curious what that amount will be. No less than that amount. It has to be. There's no option. It has to be that way.
No negotiating anymore. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Bye, Jeff.
See ya.